Hello and welcome to our series of Storiant webinars. Today I'd like to talk about some of the things that make Storiant an ideal solution in the service provider market. As a reminder, Storiant is a software company that creates software that allows enterprises and service providers to build enterprise-grade object storage, long-term storage on commodity hardware. We are dedicated to being the lowest total cost of ownership storage solution available in the market today. That becomes very important, particularly in the service provider market, where you're really looking to increase your margins. What that means is it allows service providers to offer a new service that provides a new source of revenue for them, and it helps to keep customers sticky within their service. One of the key features that's very important in a service provider deployment here is multi-tenancy. Obviously, they have to be able to do things like chargeback and bill back and keep user accounts separate from one another and so forth. So I'd like to talk just for a minute about fundamentally what does multi-tenancy look like in Storiant. So all data within the Storiant object store is qualified by an account. So in a service provider market, individual customers of that service provider would be an account. Within each of those accounts, you can have users, you can have roles for those users, like administrator, user. You can grant certain privileges, like the ability to create users and run reports, and it can be very granular. And then each one of those accounts also has something, a concept called containers. Containers, as the name implies, are the storage bucket, if you will, for the objects that get placed into the Storiant solution. So each account, again, will have users, roles, and containers. There is a RESTful API, obviously on the front end of the object store to put and get or store and retrieve objects. There's also a separate REST API for account-specific user creation and management, role management, and end user reporting, meaning that individual end user customers can do their own reporting, look at their data utilization, manage their own users, and then the service provider themselves obviously can do things like chargeback reporting and account management and so forth. All data that gets put into the object store is spread across drives and physical drive enclosures. Now, it is logically separated in Cassandra, where by its metadata, so that the no individual end user can have access to another end user's data. So let's talk about a typical workflow here as a service provider brings on a new customer. The first step would be for the Vault administrator or the service provider themselves to provision a new account within the Storiant operator console. So this would be creating a new end user customer account. Once that end user customer account is created, then the Vault administrator, again, the service provider themselves, would create a user within the new account and then assign that user the account administrator role for that account. So what they've done essentially is define a new customer and then create an administrator user for that individual customer. At that point, they would hand over those credentials and information to the end user customer, and the end user customer administrator would have the ability to sign into the account management webpage and create additional users within their own environment. Each of those additional users can be assigned roles. Again, the ability to do things like report, create users, do things related to compliance. So add legal holds and set compliance mode and monitor and alert. Again, some very granular role creation and definitions. Once we created that end user account, then that end user has the ability to interact with the object store with Storiant using the API or any other compatible application to upload and download objects using his or her credentials. Just as a reminder, those interfaces include OpenStack Swift, which is a RESTful interface, Amazon's S3 interface. There is a NAS gateway available using NFS and CIFS. And there are also client libraries available using things like Java and Python and ASP for customers who are interested in creating their own applications. After a period of time, it becomes important for end users to be able to generate reports and for the service providers themselves to generate reports. So we do provide, again, a separate RESTful API. So all of the administrative functions for reporting and role management are available through REST. The APIs are nice because they allow integration into existing web applications. We also provide a reference implementation account administration web page. And when I say reference implementation, all of the features and functionality are built into that, but we're allowing end users to sort of skin it themselves, so they can fashion it so that it integrates more tightly into whatever current infrastructure they have. What does that look like? So this again is that reference implementation. It includes things like bandwidth reporting, utilization reporting. Again, this would be important for things like chargeback. We'll show you trending over time for utilization. And again, this end user portal, the goal here is to allow individual end user customers to interact with their particular part of the Storiant environment while still giving the service provider themselves a higher level view of all customer data so that they can do their monthly billing and monitoring and alerting and things of that sort. So that's just a little bit about some of the things that we are doing here at Storiant specifically for service providers and multi-tenant environments. And if you'd like to share any feedback or get any more information, I'd invite you to visit the URL here on the screen, which is info.storiant.com/webinars. Thank you so much and have a great day.